Oh,
Okay.
maybe I should move that to the other side. But
Did you sit over there?
do you want us to all sit here?
You know
Does
what?
that help?
It's not gonna capture everyone, I don't think. So that's just,
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
now I feel
now you're in the hot seat.
Oh, you want to sit there? So you will be in the scene as well.
Oh, yeah, I can see.
Yeah. I think we have you.
But you also need to.
Here, I can move a little
Yeah.
back
So
and
we
then
can
we
be
can
all
all
here.
be in the
Yeah.
video.
Yeah.
I think if we don't like that, we can.
Okay.
We have to get comfy, right? Yeah. So are you unofficially in the mentoring session as well?
Oh, now we all.
Oh, we're already streaming.
We are, yes.
Oh, really?
Just started.
That's so stupid. Okay, so let me start like an introduction of myself. I just talk briefly. I started my first, I would say my first career in the science field in Sweden. Actually, previously by chance, I worked for King.com. It's a huge competitor of Zynga. So I actually started my career there. And then I worked for King for around a year or so, and I wanted to work for Spotify. That's another Swedish company. And then my mom asked me to go back to China. So I decided, okay, let me have a look. I was born in China. And then I went back to China and I interviewed Zynga, they hired me. So I decided, okay, fine, I work for Zynga in China actually. And then I met my husband, got married, I moved to US. So all my life is sort of connected with Zynga, so I have a very strong feeling with Zynga. And also my data science career. So I actually enjoy really a lot working for Zynga and working for such a big company. It's very different from other industries. This is the funnest place I've ever worked. Yeah. Not only because of the culture of the company, but also because the data science field. In here, especially in Zynga, I think we're doing a lot of fun stuff, interesting work. And we really do the modeling part. And we try to learn the player behavior, and we also apply those models into production. That's the funnest part. And we can see that how our model can impact business decision. So, yeah, I don't know other company. I heard a lot of people working as a data scientist in other companies. They may do a lot of reporting stuff or working on analytics work. They probably more stats focused, but here is more machine learning focused.
Okay. So what kind of data you are collecting? It's like players?
Yes.
Their act or?
So basically, we're collecting everything. We have different tiers of stats. We have, for example, I probably shouldn't talk too much because it's online streaming, but of course, we collect, like a daily active, how many people log into the game, and the time they log into the game and so on, and also their player behavior, like when you click, when you buy, when you do almost everything in the game, we know about it.
And why is that information important for the company? How do you use in general? I know that you cannot.
Yeah. So imagine that's not talking about Zynga. Think about Uber.
Okay.
They have data science team there now.
Oh, yes.
So what kind of data do you think they log? And how do they do actually optimization for their engine? How they going to allocate all the drivers? How they going to change the price? How do they learn that? How do they learn when's the rush hour and all that kind of stuff? They need to log every piece of information so they can dig gold in the data.
Abandonment rates and things like that. Like if you book an Uber and then you cancel, like why did you cancel?
Yeah, right. Answer you want to find in the data, like why people cancel their trip and what's the drop ratio and why some trips are good, like people are satisfied and some are not. Is it because traffic or because what, like time, pricing, or driver? We need to log that. And then think about, Facebook, for example. What kind of information will they got? They have a lot of huge data science team, right?
And is it like different models for different people? So you cluster people based on their authority?
Yeah, for sure. Classification is one problem every company would face. You always want to segment your player or your user so that you can treat them differently. Right? Okay.
Do you mean those ads that appears when you are using your Facebook account? Those are depending on
Right. So one fun part, I watch YouTube videos, right? Whenever I watch a video, the ads is actually something about baby. So like wonder, why do they know that have always show anything infant ads to me? I don't know how they get my personal data. But they do.
Well, Google your search and your if you use email.
Yes, like Amazon gave you recommendations, right? History, purchase history, and so on.
They collect everything.
Yeah,
Just assume that everything you've ever generated has been collected by somebody, and some of the stuff that you don't even know that you've generated is also
they have a
collected.
huge advantage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and even not just these companies, even just like the amount of cookies online, you could visit some random website and they would collect all this data on you, your browsing history and stuff that you wouldn't even want to share with anybody, but it's all out there.
Yeah.
And then it's being sold from one company to the next, and it's like, I mean, Europe has stricter laws about what can be collected, but the US is very open.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is in China.
Do you guys want to talk individually about yourself and what do you want to do for some of your future? Is your focus stuff?
I can start if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable. So my name is Shiri, and I'm from UMass Amherst. Originally, also born in Israel, but moved back and forth to the US. And I'm doing my PhD on automatically detecting controversial topics, which is a small growing area in information retrieval, a little bit NLP, kind of intersection of those areas. And I am also recently opened a startup around this research. So I'm hoping to pursue that, finish the PhD, and then do that full time.
Hi, my name is Rafael. I did my undergrad and my master in Chile. It was in computer science, and then I changed kind of a little bit of topic. So now I'm doing a PhD in math here at the University of Delaware. My focus is in graph theory. So I'm trying to study like properties of a graph. Now I'm trying to study more kind of real world graphs and see how I can use my knowledge to try to solve some problems in graph analytics and things like that.
My name is Ellie. I'm originally from Iran, and I came to the US 2009 for master and PhD in computer science. I'm specifically working on streaming data mining, so we are trying to detect the concept drift as we are analyzing the stream and dynamically adapt the model in order to maintain the performance. So this is my last year of PhD, and I'm graduating soon.
Which
Sorry, University of Louisville in Kentucky.
And my name is Orlando. I'm currently finishing up my master's at the Polytechnic University of Puerto Rico. I'm finishing software engineering. I worked for 7 years in the aerospace industry, and I started my master's a little while ago, but had to put it on hold for a bit. So now I'm going back and want to finish it as soon as possible.
Awesome. So how do you guys like the current data science field? Is that something that you want to work in the future?
Yeah, definitely.
Why do you feel like that is interesting to you?
I guess because each time you can grab some sort of new and unpredictable information that you don't expect and apply that to whether, I don't know, if it's good for a company or improve and reduce the cost. So it's like, I don't know, it's very new and it's very challenging to me.
So I'm I'm not attached to the label data science particularly, but in general, the opportunities today are pretty amazing. What you can do with data machine learning, whether it's information retrieval on my specialization or something else, like things that weren't possible 5-10 years ago are now not just possible, but done every single day. So I'm really excited about the opportunities, and in my personal excitement is social good, but I also know that it's easier said than done. I've talked to a lot of people about this topic, and sometimes it's very interesting to me, I'm very curious about that, but also sometimes the best way to do social good is to make money and then contribute to the world after. So that's my current approach.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think that's one of the important points of data science is it's like feeling your research and your work can have an impact on people's life. So I would say that's very important for me. So when you work in math, you sometimes you think that or nothing of what I am doing has an
It's gonna
impact.
come out.
So for me, this transition is kind of, oh, I want to work on problems that are important for a lot of people.
Yeah, myself, in my case, my academic background is more software engineering. But since a couple of years ago, in this whole data science or data mining field, I started doing a couple of projects, and I think it's incredible what some data can tell you that's not immediately obvious when you look at the data. So definitely, I think there's a lot of growth for financial reasons and for public good, and you name it, and it's there. Looking at the data can tell you a lot about the future, the present. So I think it's a very interesting field.
Yeah. To me, I feel like the most attractive part is, every time people tell me, "Oh, I want to know the future," and I can help them. It's like a magic. But actually, it's not. It's science. So I think that's the really part.
Nice. So what's your biggest challenge at Zynga?
Wow, that's a really good question. There's a lot of challenges. I think one of the biggest challenges, not only probably for Zynga, but probably for all industries, is actually most of the time the real world data is very messy. It's not really as clean as the research data. So a lot of the times we need to really clean the data, and that's one of the biggest challenges. And if you clean it too much, it can end to the way that you ruin the data itself already. And the conclusion you make might fool you. Because I feel like as a data scientist, you have full power to control the data. And then you can manipulate the data so that sometimes you can draw a wrong conclusion based on your analysis. So we need to be careful about that part.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the biggest challenges. Data not always tell you the truth. Sometimes it lies. So,
If you aren't careful about the biases that you introduce.
Yeah.
I've heard somebody refer to the cleaning up the data as not so much data science as data janitor. I thought that was kind of funny.
I think there's also other challenges like when it comes to the industry, you have a good theory and you want to test out, but it not necessarily match with business need. And the speed you can solve the problem probably not matching the speed of the product development or release. And then the project gets delayed. When you work on the result, they already have problem they're needed. So, yeah. And that's one of the other challenges. And machine learning project normally takes a long time. It's not like you do it a week or two. Hello.
Just keep on.
Okay.
You gonna join us?
Pay no attention to them.
We have a question.
I could go all day, but I think that's already been established. So I mean, I'm curious to hear also about your experience as a parent.
Oh, but parent experience.
Yeah, I'm also a parent, by the way. So it just
How old is your
my daughter is 2.5
mom? Yeah.
years.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's much better.
Yeah, it's actually a lot easier now than it was when she was 3 months old.
Well, I think it's easier.
You said sorry, six
6
months.
months.
Sorry,
Yeah, I think it's easier to be a data scientist than be a mom.
I like that.
All the problems have answer. It's young, you don't really have any answer. You don't know what they want.
That's hilarious. I've never heard anybody put it that way, but I think you're absolutely right. So, did you have like a generous policy at Zynga for like parental leave?
Yes, we just changed the policy. So previously, I think We have around 3 or 4 months unpaid, but now we have 6 months paid.
Oh wow,
You also-
6 months paid, that's
Yeah,
extremely
yeah.
generous.
Fully paid. And then I think you also have amount of time you can be unpaid.
Yeah,
If you wish.
that's really nice, yeah. In Israel, the maternal leave or parental leave is government subsidized, so the standard is 3 months, 4 months minimum is like paid by the government, and then if some companies will add to that, but not always.
Okay. Isn't this especially generous?
Yeah, in the US, that's like almost unheard of. It's pretty impressive.
I think this is also.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Facebook and Google, I think, and Microsoft are generally trying to be very generous. That's great.
So can I know more about your working environment and I don't know, are you a director of the data science team or
No,
maybe you have your own
yeah,
boss?
you mean like the structure of the team?
The structure of the team, yeah, and
Okay,
how is the
so
planning?
we have a CDO of the team, so that's those data analytics and data science, and also some data engineering team. That's in one org. And for the analyst, we have around 20 people, I guess. I think a lot of companies also call what we call the analysts as data scientists. But they call it data science analytics. And here, and then they call our team data scientist, core data scientist team, or applied machine learning data science team. So that's what we call it. And in our team, we have around 10 people. And then we have one in India, and the rest of us are all here based in SF. And we also have a sort of program that I'm running. We actually have a few analysts that they want to transition their career into data scientists. So we also train them, and we have a program that normally takes a year or longer, depends on their schedule, and to train them with necessary knowledge gap, and also some real-time project for them to learn, so that they can become data scientists in the future, not necessarily within that, but maybe outside some areas. And here in our team, we have the director or the global head of data scientist manager that's doing free stuff here. And then they have me, and I have a very small team, and then the rest of them are reporting to the development director.
And is that, I mean, question clear, or is just like they just give you the data and give me whatever you can?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. So normally what we do here, we do root mapping. Like we do brainstorming first, of course, and we see what they have in their mind, what do they need, without thinking about resource and whether we can solve it by our team, if we have a limitation in their knowledge or whatever. So we do brainstorming and have the business impact of those problems, and also estimate the time and effort to the problem, and we list that out. So we give a very good estimate of how we can project, and then we prioritize, and we decide which project to work on by which data scientist. And normally the problem will be really well defined. And the hope is that with well-defined project and end of date delivery, we put them into production, and we have a clear deliverable to the team where we can see, okay, this project will give you this benefit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's
Lost in the way.
it's not research, it's a business case, so you need to deliver impact.
So I'm curious, in terms of size, how big is the data science team versus the software engineering or programming team?
Okay. So I think in our case, every data scientist, so we have very good structure, I think, in this case. We have MI pipeline, the machine learning pipeline, where it was developed by a few engineers, I think 3 or 4 maximum, 3 probably. So this pipeline have the ability to pull data from our database in the Hadoop system, and then we can have our model running this platform, it's actually running on Spark. So specified by some parameters, a configuration file, normally provided by data scientists. And we will be able to run our model, train it every day, and publish also populate the data back to the database or some system where the game team can fetch when they want it. So say there's a likely to train model. So what we do normally as a data scientist, we put our data, write our ETL in our local machine, test it out, and then do our algorithm and test it out, do the training and testing and everything, and make sure the model works fine. That's on the local side. And then we deliver our ETL code and our configuration file to the MI team, where we follow the MI pipeline structure. And then we can schedule this model running on our MI pipeline daily, and the data team can actually get the real production data from this pipeline and use it in their game. Say if this user goes to churn today or not, and they can fetch that labor of paper prediction. So that's how it works here. So in that sense, everyone can do coding because we need to do it our local machine. But normally you probably just code in R or Python. That's very simple, right?
Yeah.
It's not like really deep, that's complicated coding for engineers. And the engineer maintain the pipeline of algorithm because Spark itself. But I'm also exploring different opportunities to adding different libraries to this platform so that we can support more algorithms.
Okay.
I was curious about your academic background. Did you study like undergraduate or?
Yeah. I studied undergraduate and masters, mostly in actually Sweden.
In Sweden. Where in Sweden, by the way?
Uppsala.
Uppsala.
You know, Uppsala University.
I've never been there, but I've heard of it. But I have been in Malmo, and I speak a little tiny bit of Swedish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, very, very small amount. I can say things like "jag fattar YouTube."
Oh, that's very good.
Not that great, but
Yeah.
I'm using a Duolingo, which is developed by data scientists in CMU. So
Yeah, that's a really good place. I really love that place. I don't know, I couldn't imagine. It's one of the best places.
Sweden.
Yeah, Sweden, Uppsala. Uppsala University is very good. And especially, I think the culture in Sweden is very different compared to any place. It's not a country, and it has very fair environment.
Yeah, I just came back from there recently. So.
Right? I think women there have very good position. You can be really as strong as you can, and the men there is also very I think they treat women very equally and compared to any other place in the world. And actually, sometimes women have stronger power than men in that place. That's what I heard. Yeah.
How long were you in Sweden?
I was there 3 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you did your master's there?
Yeah. I also stayed in Denmark for a year.
Nice.
Yeah.
In where?
Copenhagen.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. It's quite a route to get from China, Sweden.
Yeah, actually before that I actually worked for Saab.
Yeah.
And by working with Saab, I had a chance to travel a lot of places. I worked for Germany for a while. I worked for at Saab Brazil for a while as well.
Cool.
So I also got a chance to travel to US. So a lot of cases we work internationally. So it's supporting Australia or anywhere in the world. So it's
So you got to travel.
Yeah, it's quite good. And from the beginning, I came into the IT industry. I worked in the area. So when I worked for Saab, actually I worked for their. I'm an expert in their Saab database, and also Oracle and DB2. Yeah. So after that, and also with BI, like they have a business they acquire the BO. So I also worked in that field, and then I decided I want to do machine learning. This is something I always wanted to do. So I quit the job. Everyone said, "Oh, it's a good job," but I wouldn't regret. I really like this field.
There are a lot of opportunities in this world.
Yeah.
Were you always planning on going down to the field, or?
Yeah, I always planned that way.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I remember when the time I studied computer science. That's the discipline I want to go in the future. Yeah. But when I graduate, I want to have the idea of what is the industry like.
Right.
So it's interesting.
And which kind of tools do you use to build your models?
So in the team, there's a huge variety. I know, for example, Kyle, he's using 9. You heard about 9? It's yeah, and he's also using Python and he's using R. The rest of the team, I know most of them are using R. So for me, I actually use different stuff. I use R, I use Python, I use Jython. Not that Jython, right? The one implemented by Java.
Yeah.
Python stuff. So I don't use Vita. Yeah, and I also started to do. I want to explore Spark, even though we have an engineer team doing that.
But I mean, which kind of like to build the model, not that's the when you write the code. Yeah. I mean the algorithm or the idea.
Oh, the algorithms.
Yeah.
Okay, the algorithm. Actually, interesting. Most of the model currently in our system production are implemented from logic regression.
From what?
Logic regression.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah.
That is because Spark have already made it supportive of the algorithm we can use. And even though we train the model locally using different algorithms, and in the end, when we want to implement into production, we have our limited choice. So mobile actually allow the case for binary classification problem like logic regression already works out. Even though it's not the best for us using it, but that's something we have to compromise.
Sort of close enough.
Yes, we have to compromise at this stage.
Do you also need to code, other than using the machine learning tools, or it's just for the engineering team?
You mean code
Like C++, I don't know, like implementing algorithms or the algorithm already.
Here in our team, we don't really need to implement the algorithm. So.
You do?
We don't.
No.
You don't?
Yeah, well, most of the time we call the libraries and just do their algorithms.
Yeah.
We haven't come to the case that we have to develop algorithm ourselves in order to meet the business requirement, but I believe there's companies that definitely.
Yeah, some companies do that, all the things together.
Yeah, that's what I heard. But when you think about the problems here in the industry, I think our bosses, the non-tech bosses, they want you to solve the problem as soon as you can using the simplest method.
Right.
Okay.
So it's
Lowest
not
hanging fruit.
right.
Kind of.
Right, you know it best. So it's not like in a research, okay, I want to complete that algorithm for 0.01%. Of error. So in the case, it's not really the case. We want, solve the problem, put it into production, and make revenue.
And move on to the next thing.
Move on to the next. And if you want to, for example, make further improvement, we say it's a version 2. But you don't really know when you can come to version 2.
Oh, okay. So you just go ahead and whatever it is.
Cases
Like the most pressing need comes first.
Yes. Yeah. And there's so many projects. And so that's
And that's generally, I got the sense, this case in many other places, right? Like I worked in Facebook and it was always understaffed and too many things on the to-do list and not enough people to do them. So you have to prioritize ruthlessly about where you're gonna focus your time and energy and limited resources, and then you go after the most, so the biggest bang for your buck kind of things.
Yeah. How do you like working there?
I enjoyed it. I was there for a summer internship and I liked it a lot. Their culture was very interesting, very startup-like compared to a big company. Yeah, so they're very, their motto, right, is move fast. They're not so much on the brave things anymore as much as they used to, but they still want you to move fast and not break things. But it was great. I really enjoyed it. Very cutting edge. Also lots of data.
So what kind of tools do they use? What is their platform?
Well, I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say, but I mean, in general, they use C++ for a lot of their coding. They have a very strong machine learning pipeline as well. And then I specifically, I was working in the news search team, so they have, they have their own logs and their own data on top of, of course, the newsfeed team has their own stuff, so it's sort of separated. But yeah, I don't know exactly. I shouldn't say too much because
But
I don't. It's been over a year, so I don't even remember exactly where the board boundaries of what I'm not supposed to say
I
are.
see.
So. But I really liked it, and I also worked at Google, so I was able to compare the two.
yeah.
That's fun.
So how's the difference?
I've heard people say, and I think it's apt that like Google of 5 years ago is more like Facebook today, because Google's growing much bigger, and Facebook is sort of like on a delayed path behind it in terms of growth trajectory. So it's a number of people in terms of the layers of bureaucracy, the amount of hierarchy, like is higher at Google, but from what I've heard, it was also lower at Google 5 years back, and it was lower at Facebook 5 years back. So it's just sort of like they're both going up as they grow, and it's just a matter of like Facebook is not catching up to Google because Google keeps growing faster. So that was what I sort of felt, but also gathered from other people who had been in both places.
Okay.
I think both are very innovative. It's harder now at Google, I think, to make a big impact because there's so many people.
Yeah.
Whereas at Facebook, it's still easier to make a product change that touches, 1.5 billion users in Facebook, and that's like insane.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. And both environments were extremely challenging, lots of really smart people, a lot of fun, a lot of perks, and get spoiled by good food and stuff like that. The kind of thing you grow to expect in tech industry.
Which company do you like better?
Oh,
In terms
that's
of
a trick
food.
question. I'm
Yeah.
being recorded. Oh, in terms of food. Oh, that's not fair. I'll tell you why it's not fair. Because I was in Google New York, and their food is unbelievably incredible.
Oh.
And I was pregnant at the same time, so I was also really hungry all the time. And then when I went to Facebook, I went to Seattle, not to Menlo Park. And the Seattle office was exactly outgrowing the number of employees. So their kitchen was under like capacity, and so they kept bringing external catering companies. So it wasn't as great, but they have moved to a new building, and I've heard that it's much better there. But at the time that I was there, they were like really bumping up to the limits of what they could possibly do. So it wasn't that great. But the Menlo Park food was amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm just glad you switched it to food and not in general, because that's like a trick question.
Yeah, of course. I don't know. But today you go to try things food.
Yes,
Yeah.
breakfast was great.
Today's Friday. Sorry about that. Friday have the worst food.
Why is that?
Because Friday we're going to go to home. It's weekend.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to have too much leftovers. It's a waste of
Yeah.
food, right? But Friday normally they have the lightest, like the simplest food.
Yeah.
They have. Normally we have pop up on Tuesday and Thursday.
What does pop-up mean in this
Really
context?
well. It's well prepared for the chef, and you have like a dish where it's like a main course in
Okay.
the restaurants. It's very competitive. I think you will need to spend a lot of money to get that in the
Yeah.
restaurant. It's very delicious. I think in general we changed the kitchen people and recently, and I think the food is getting even better.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think coming from these companies back to academia is really hard.
That's
very, very tough to go back home and say, oh, what will we eat today?
Yeah. Do you guys have any internship experience you'd like to share?
Well, I did an internship when I was in Chile. It was for a company. It's called Synopsis. So we were working on it was kind of a computational geometry problem. So they are kind of they provide software to build integrated circuits. So there is one of the process that is called mask data preparation, and that process contains many little steps. And one of the steps is called it's a fracture problem. You have to partition a very complex polygon into simpler shapes. So I was working there, like developing or trying to design and write an algorithm to partition this very complex polygon, like rectangles and trapezoids.
I had personal experience at Make Clinic. Basically, I was working under healthcare data, and it was for the diabetes patients, so they had all this data from the many patients in the Hadoop system, and they gave me one like a specific try to solve that. Basically, it was like kind of research. They didn't make it to the production yet, so we just developed the model and we found like 75% accuracy for that. It was like 3 months that I was there. It was good. I mean, in terms of experience, I learned like big data. I worked with Hadoop system, learned a lot. So it was good for me.
Myself, not in the data science world. Like I said, I'm more of an engineering guy with an interest in the data science, data mining. So I worked 7 years in the aerospace industry, managing or developing their SAP systems. So I worked with a company that did SAP consulting for them.
Okay.
So I spent 7 years, most of the time with Pratt & Whitney, and also with several other aerospace companies that were either implementing SAP or had an SAP project that they were expanding and all that. So I spent 7 years, doing several things for those in that industry. And now going back to the masters and trying to finish that up.
Sounds like we have similar parts now. I also worked for SAP before.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I didn't mention that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of slipped through.
I worked for SAP after I graduated from my undergrad. Yeah, for a few years.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. So aerospace industry, they many big engine manufacturers and some of the airlines as well. They use SAP. And one of the companies, the company I worked for was a joint venture between HCL, the big Indian company that has a presence also in the US. So they developed this SAP-specific solution for the aerospace called IMRO.
Yeah.
So I was involved with that, coordinating with the Indian development team and our local team that we had back home in Puerto Rico. So yeah, I did some work.
Nowadays, I think they also have a data scientist team.
I know, yeah.
Nowadays, like every industry, they having a
Their
data
own
scientist.
Yeah, I was
Right.
just gonna say that everyone has a data science team.
Yeah.
But that's why I was kind of joking about the hype, right? It's like the big data hype is a little past us, but I don't think maybe you were in the room or not for the keynote speech.
No.
Yeah. So, he was talking about deep learning, but I asked him about the hype curve. The hype curve. There's like a famous article, I think it was written years ago about a different hype, but every time this comes up, this type of term that becomes almost like a buzzword, everybody's talking about it, then it makes me think of the hype curve. It's like growing like a crash, or gradually becoming, depends on the type of hype. But
Well, how do you see that? Do you think like
I think big data is a buzzword right now that everybody likes to use, and it's to some extent there's some substance behind it, but it's not necessarily like very different from machine learning. But a lot of journalists, they kind of sees it, and then there's this new titles of data scientists, but sometimes you look at job postings and they say minimum 5 years of experience in data science, but 5 years ago the data science title didn't exist. So it's like
that's
kind of
funny.
fake title, right? Like fake experience requirement. What they really mean is, somebody who's been doing machine learning for 5 years or something like that. But it's just like it's one of those shifts that in like consciousness, but it's not always. The substance, I think, has not changed that much. But maybe the perception of it has.
Yeah, I think, the name probably have been used wrongly for a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Or it helps maybe for people outside of computer science to understand what's going on, or at least they think they understand what's going on. But I think I've been in computer science since as a student, but 2001, I was in my undergrad, 2004, I graduated. I mean, the word big data didn't exist then, but
Right.
machine learning did, and neural networks
That's
did,
true.
and they weren't as common then as they
Yeah.
are now, but the data, it has grown, I mean, there's no question on it.
Right.
But I think that sometimes it's funny, like if, I don't know if this is your experience maybe, but for me, I feel like if you've been in a field just long enough, you start to see these trends. It's like
Right.
buzzword comes, buzzword go, and then
Yeah,
like
that's
at some
definitely
point,
true. I remember the first time I heard about cloud computing.
yeah, cloud. That was
And
what
then everyone's
also came
talking
to me.
about it, and after a while, I think it's not gone yet, but it's still like
No, I mean it's down to standard. It's
yeah.
not gone, but the
Yeah.
hype around it is not
Yeah,
quite as
yeah.
high.
Yeah, and I still remember when the first time, like people talking about Hadoop system and they're using it in the
Yeah.
games and everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually also remember reading Math Review's paper for the first time. It's like it's a long time ago. But that's what I'm saying. Certainly, some things have changed,
Yeah.
but it's. I think it's not quite as people like
Right.
to portray it.
Yeah.
That's just my 2 cents.
How was the interview process for you as a data scientist? I think, how many rounds, what question they asked?
I think I don't even remember. It was like 2 years, 4 years ago. But I think around 4.
And did they ask too many data science questions or programming or?
It wasn't too hard. I think they wanted to make a quick offer because I was at the time go back to Sweden and Spotify wanted to go work for them and Kingdom wanted to leave, and then the Beijing studio said, okay, really quick.
It's awesome.
Yeah, finish the interview and this is your offer.
That's nice.
Okay.
If they really wanted you.
So they didn't really push me around for that. And what I heard from my manager was, he told me he was looking for people for half a year and then finally found me. He was super happy.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I think it's the major part is because I have a background in game and they want someone understanding game metrics. So, yeah.
Because of your previous work.
Yeah, but that's just, that was too late. I hated the game. I did. Hated the game when I was in my undergrad. Because my roommates play games all night and night. I can't sleep.
Oh, no.
And I want to study and I can't. And then she plays all night long. I just so hate the game. Why game make people so crazy, And then in the end, I end up in the game company. It's incredible. And in the end, I started love games.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a dramatic change.
Yeah. I'm curious. I mean, they showed us the life at Zynga video, and they mentioned that what's the mission of Zynga to connect?
People with social?
Yeah,
Is
like
that
people
what-
through games or something.
Yeah, connect
like
people
that.
through games.
Yeah. So I'm like
Why?
how you found just how you found that mission. Like, do you see it as like a sort of lip service, or do you really think it's very deep in the culture?
Well, I actually don't know.
Fair enough.
Yes, I actually don't know. But what I think what game can bring us is fun.
Yeah.
And it's sort of being connected as well.
Mhm.
So you play Pokemon Go?
I have not.
Yeah, but see, this is increasing.
Yes, I've
Right? You
heard.
see, everywhere you see people having fun and just
Yeah,
play with
yeah,
that,
yeah.
right? So I think this is what they now kind of want to achieve, that motivate people by social gaming and somehow connect them. I know there's a lot of lovely stories from
Yeah.
most of his friends and also other actually Zynga games. They actually
Yeah.
managed to make strange people mad and marry in the end.
Yeah.
And they all connect through games.
I also heard this other story that I don't remember where I heard this, but I heard this story about an estranged family that the couple was married against the parents' wishes, and then only the wife spoke to her parents and the husband to his parents, but not between them. And then somehow they were able to resolve the conflict through Farmville, which is so crazy. But somehow the mother of the bride befriended the father, like the mother of the groom, through Farmville because she needed more like something credits that I don't understand because I've never played Farmville.
Okay.
And then like the other, the mother-in-law sent her the credits, and then they somehow became friends, and now they're like resolved the conflict. Crazy story. Like I don't
That
quote me
sounds
on
fun.
this because I don't remember the source.
But really, to make people connect, there's people in the world. I think we connect from different things like interests, and there definitely a group of people need to be connected by the common interest of playing game.
And do you feel that that's, I mean, so when I think of games, I mean, certainly I do think of computer games, but also physical, like board games and things like that. Do you feel like the connection through the mobile games is as powerful as the human face-to-face games? Because my sense often is that it sometimes, not always, but sometimes it can actually sort of disconnect people from their real physical environment and sort of dive them into this virtual world, but maybe at the cost of estranging them from the real people around them.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and it's been a concern for a lot of people that nowadays with the technology, with mobile technology and all kinds of stuff, and people become more isolated than ever, and that's not good. And I think that's actually why a game like Pokemon Go will be so successful, because it actually brings people outside of the room and go outside and walk.
Yeah.
And you might see people walking and playing the same game. Actually, that's sort of the commission I think our previous CEO Mark Lucas, the founder of Meta, and he wanted to achieve. And he felt he has this mission. He wants to bring people together and having fun together. And the one way he says is possible is through game. That's why he called, we want to connect people through the social game. And the mission he felt like he wants to bring people actually outside of where you stay and be an isolated person and having fun together. I think that's what it's just nowadays the game is not in a way that we actually do the job well. But I think with the development of VR game.
I was just thinking of that.
That's something that we are investing on. I actually played one of the VR version of our game. I like it a lot.
So are these based on like Oculus or?
I don't know. I think they test
Some like virtual reality headset or?
Yeah. I think they work on a different platform. But the game I played is a Poker VR. And I like it a lot. So imagine actually it solves a lot of problems. Like it really feels real. I really feels like I was like I'm in Las Vegas. So yeah, and I'm talking to people and playing my hand. So people still sometimes you have to be a certain physical location. Yeah, and if the virtual reality can connect you from that, if you're real, it's good, right?
That would be nice.
Shall we have a break?
Yeah, I think.
It's actually almost, are we going to end in 12:30 or?
We're still on time. Let me check the schedule. I'm not even.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Is how do you test your models? So imagine that you build your model. How do you measure the success of your model?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we have now approach called cost and benefit analysis. So when you do a modeling, of course, you have the true positive, false positive, negative, and confusion matrix, and then we will think about when we apply this model to a real business case, and we have different treatment for each group, each predictions, and what is the cost for applying a wrong prediction to such action? And what is the actual benefit when you do something right? And given those cost and benefit estimation of different actions, and multiply to the confusion matrix, you will have an estimate of the gain, right? You will have an estimate of the gain, but all those things are based on estimation.
Yeah. I was gonna ask how do you predict the cost because that's obviously.
So for the cost, it depends on which kind of option you give, right? It sometimes can be engineer cost, sometimes can be, if you go to get free gift of chips, that's dollar cost.
Right.
And this, and sometimes for the benefit, you probably have like some measurements like customer lifetime value, reactivation value, and so on, those kind of things. We can get it from our historical campaign or data and so on as a reference only. It's not still the real thing, right? But all we need to do is actually we need to perform the A/B test. So always we do A/B test, so that we can understand what's the lift there. Like,
What's the name of the test?
A/B test.
A/B test is say you have some like change whatever things you want to do in the program in the game, and you can assign this change to two groups. Like one group you won't see the change, the other one you can see the change, and then you have this one as control and the other one as the test, and then you compare these two groups and see if this simple change will make difference of those two groups.
Maybe it's different for better or different for the worse.
Right.
Yeah. So this is standard in the industry, in like almost every company that is consumer facing. Even some that aren't consumer facing, but probably more in the consumer side. You can apply like a very small cohort, maybe 20% of your users or less, maybe 1% of your users. You expose the new change, and then you see, is it hurting, is it helping? And then if it's good, you roll it out to everyone.
Okay. So in that case, you are not doing an estimation. So you have real data. What's gonna happen?
Yes. Yeah, of course you can do estimation always beforehand. Right?
Okay.
But then after that, it's to estimation you want to apply it to real data.
Okay.
But even then, you don't always know the long-term impact.
No.
Right? Like we.
Yeah, because
For how long you will wait to see the
right, that's really a very good question. It's sometimes hard to see, right?
Yeah.
You see, so what we do a lot of time in our game is we see D1, like day 1, day 1, day 7, day 14, day 30, depends on how
You wait
patient
30
are.
days for a
Depends on
test. That's
how you-
impressive.
This really depends on how patient you are. Right?
Yeah.
Most
I
of
guess
the
if you saw a negative result on day 30, you could roll back the change for everybody else.
time, but normally we won't do that.
Yeah. 7 days, I think, is somewhat standard in the industry. Like you will usually see the results within a week, if there is any results to be seen.
Yeah, but I think it was like, in the web in time of the game, all the game are web based. We do that much faster. Nowadays, a mobile way based, any change it's much slower than previous.
Oh yeah, because you have to have people update the software.
Depends on your changes in the client side and on the server side. Yeah, can make complications of doing it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So like a company like Google, they could be running even hundreds or thousands of A/B tests simultaneously, and they have very, advanced platform to allot the experimentation time per group so that they can not conflict between different experiments and things like that. Like, you have to be very careful. Like if something changes, maybe the person was in 2 different experiments at the same time. How do you know if it's experiment A or experiment B that is making the changes, etc. So you can roll out changes to fractions. If you have millions or billions of users, you can roll out to a fraction of the users, and the damage is like negligible. Even if something goes terribly wrong, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, if you ever see Google acting strange or Facebook acting strange, and then you ask your friend and they don't see the same thing, it's because you are in an A/B test.
And that's another thing, like Facebook. A little while ago, I almost exclusively use it right now from the mobile app. But if you log in through the web, they said they had a new layout or new things going on. So they do that. They test several designs
all the time, and they test things that you wouldn't necessarily notice. Like
and you may see it.
the order of the but like even things that even if you were to be tested, you wouldn't notice, like the order of posts in your news feed and things like that. You have no way of knowing that it changed. All right.
So I think we finished for the session now. Thanks for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for everything.
And we go for lunch.
Okay.
That's good.
Thanks.
Thanks. Don't forget to click the red
Yes.
button.